There are definitely a few things that I want to get into to cover, but before I get there, I do want to just address. Well, you know what? I'm just gonna play it as I do always. Why not just play it and people can see what is going on? Let's look at what's going on here. Okay.
For America. Nothing like this has ever happened before. There's never been anything like it. Every legal scholar says this case is nonsense. It should never have been brought. It doesn't deserve anything like this. There is no case, and they've said it. People that don't necessarily follow or like Donald Trump said this is an outrage that this case was brought. This is political persecution. This is a persecution like never before. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. And again, it's a case that should have never been brought. It's an assault on America. And that's why I'm very proud to be here. This is an assault on our country. And it's a country that's failing. It's a country that's run by an incompetent man who's very much involved in this case. This is really an attack on a political opponent. That's all it is. So I'm very honored to be here. Thank you very much.
That's really, it's so accurate. And what we have, the way that they are going after President Trump, it's just, we've never seen anything like this, going after a president. And I've talked about this with past guests and how they go after, how they treat this president. And if this president is a part of the same scam, then it still seems like they're doing something very, very different here. So I'm just trying to adjust my hat a little bit. So there's another clip here I do want to play. This one, the audio is a little bit better. Maybe not too much better, but I think it's a little bit better than what we just had from the Donald J. Trump playlist here. We'll play this one, election interference.
So thank you very much. We had some amazing
Audio's
things
pretty
happen
low.
today. As you know, my son is graduating from high school, and
That's
it looks
too bad.
like the judge will not let me go through the graduation of my son, who's worked very, very hard. He's a great student. I'm very proud of the fact that he did so well, and I was looking forward for years to have graduation with his mother and father there. And it looks like the judge isn't going to allow me to escape this scam. It's a scam trial. If you read all of the legal pundits, all of the legal scholars today, there's not one that I see that said this is a case that should be brought or tried. It's a scam. It's a political witch hunt. It continues, and it continues forever.
Well, the audio is pretty bad there, but what he's saying is that he is not going to be allowed to go to his son's graduation. And how this case turns out, this hush money case, anyone who has been following the Stormy Daniels and the Michael Cohen, you kind of know where this is all going. Will be very shocked, if anything, if Trump is found guilty of any of this stuff. Be very shocked to find that out. And this is what they do. These are warning signs. This is, Kennedy, RFK Jr. has to be looking at this thinking, this is exactly what they're going to do. Now, he's seen worse. The one person running for office who has seen worse is probably RFK Jr., who has seen, obviously, his uncle, what they did to his uncle and what they did to his father. He's got some interesting views on 9/11. He's got some Kennedy, I'm talking about. He's got some very interesting views on a lot of these topics on January 6th that I hope to cover. But I want to get into pretty much the main thing is that there is some good news in all of this. RFK Jr. is on the ballot now in 8 states. 8 states. This is powerful. This is big. This is great news. So I'm going to read a little bit of this part of the chapter. Number 1 was in Utah. On January 3rd, 2024, Kennedy announced his team had officially qualified to be on the ballot in Utah. Utah, this is Kennedy quoting, quote, Utah has once again shown that it is the pioneer state, Kennedy said. It's the first of 50 states and the District of Columbia that we are going to register and get on the ballot. This morning, the campaign learned that 3 states are refusing to send us ballot petitions. Those are Maine, New Hampshire, and North Dakota. This is something that would never happen to a presidential campaign from the major political parties. Remember, Kennedy in Utah, Kennedy needed 1,000 signatures to get on the ballot. Okay. Kennedy also writes, most democracies in the world have a variety of political parties, but the Democratic and Republican parties have succeeded in this country in implementing a number of rules and procedures that make it almost impossible for anybody to challenge, for any normal American to challenge their chokehold. But he did it. Kennedy did it. Kennedy's team, right? Team Kennedy got him on the ballot in Utah. State number 1. That's the first state. Here's another interesting note here about the ballot access. On January 16, 2024, Team Kennedy announced their formation of a new political party, We the People. This is a strategic, very strategic thing that Team Kennedy did. They announced the party of We the People in 5 states. That may be different, that may be growing, there may be more. This was in Hawaii, California, Mississippi, Delaware, and North Carolina. The big one for me is California, because in California, they will need 75,000 people to register as with their political affiliation. 75,000 people in California need to register as with their political affiliation to be a part of the We the People party. If they do that, if they can get 75,000 people to register to be a part of this new party, Kennedy's party, the We the People party, Kennedy will get his name on the ballot. I believe he has until August, and we're going to go and check that. We're going to look at the actual map on Kennedy24.com, and we're going to go check that out. But that's not a lot. In Delaware, they need 760 people for the We the People party. In Hawaii, it's done. I'm kind of spoiling it a little bit, but we're going to go through that. Team Kennedy also formed a new political party in Texas. This is a big deal. They formed a new political party in Texas called the Texas Independent Party. So they're using the party system, they're using this party name to make it a lot easier to get Kennedy on the ballot in these states. This is a big tactic that is going to pay off. When Kennedy says they're going to be on the ballot in all 50 states and the District of Columbia, this is one of the tactics that they can use and they are using to get his name on there, and quickly, because they don't have time to waste, right? They can't spend a lot of time getting his name on the ballot. They need to get his name on the ballot quickly, because just getting his name on the ballot is the first step, right? Knowing is part of the battle. The next step is obviously they want to get him elected. That's a whole nother process. So that's why they're going so quickly to get Kennedy's name on the ballot in these states. Using this political party thing is how they can do it very quickly. It's a strategic thing, and it is going to be a very powerful, effective way to get Kennedy's name on the ballot quickly, because they could do it in other ways. But this is a quick, fast, easy way to get Kennedy's name on the ballot. So then their focus isn't getting him on the ballot. Then their focus will really be to make Kennedy the next president of the greatest country of all time. Kennedy writes here, with these political party filings, a number, or this may be from Team Kennedy, with these political party filings, a number of signatures needed to get Kennedy on the ballot in every state has been reduced by about 330,000, a third of the total needed nationwide. So remember, they were saying they needed, there was a huge number that they needed. By forming these political parties in these states, they have pretty much cut that number down. So whereas when they first needed, let's say they needed a couple million, right? A million, 1,500,000. They needed all these different, this high number. By forming these political parties in these states, it cuts that number down drastically. And we are going to see some of that in these 8 states that we're going to talk about in the 7 states. So remember, Utah is number 1. Then it was New Hampshire. Interesting, obviously, about New Hampshire. Um, there's some very interesting stuff here. It only took Team Kennedy 1 day to collect 3,000 needed signatures to get Kennedy's name on the ballot in New Hampshire. Here's what Kennedy says. I want to thank our dedicated supporters and volunteers who made this great accomplishment possible. Democracy is much more than voting. I'm inspired by how enthusiastic people are to collect signatures, create new political parties, and rally for real change. This kind of energy is what will get us onto the ballot in every state and fuel our voter registration and government operation, as we head towards Election Day. All right. Very, very powerful. The January 23rd, 2024 press release explained what happened in New Hampshire this year is so unique. Here's what they said in the January 23rd, 2024 press release. New Hampshire was a major battleground between the Kennedy campaign and the Democratic National Committee. While Kennedy was running as a Democrat, New Hampshire has traditionally been the first primary in the nation, following the Iowa caucus. More on Iowa. But due to Kennedy's broad support and Biden's fears that Kennedy could win the primary, the DNC attempted to reorder the calendar and push New Hampshire to a later date. This made it clear that the DNC would go to any lengths to coronate Biden without a fair contest in the Democratic primary, which compelled Kennedy to declare his independence on October 9, 2023. So that's what led up to Kennedy making this huge turn, right? This huge about face from running as a Democrat to running as an independent, then to forming the political party. This is a very strategic thing. I mean, this is very serious. What Kennedy is doing is making him a major player. He's not talking the talk, as we've seen with Nader, with some of these other Green Party people. I can't remember the guy's name. Gary Johnson, right? This is different. Kennedy is doing something very, very different from any of the third-party candidates since Ross Perot, maybe. And I'd have to go back and, learn more about Ross Perot and how he got on the ballot and how he got this close, et cetera, what the numbers were. But this is going to be very, very different. I believe we're going to see something historical like we've never seen before, because we have a former president running. We have a president or a person who is sitting in the office that is kind of like a mulligan, or kind of like there's an asterisk at least next to his numbers, right? There's some funky things that are tied to Joe Biden when it comes to him being the quote unquote president of the greatest country ever, at least I think. And then we have a guy who is a Kennedy. And like we've been saying, third time is a charm. First Kennedy took him out. Second Kennedy took him out. Now we have the third one. I don't count Ted Kennedy. It's something totally different. This is very, very different. RFK Jr. running and what he is doing and the influence and everything. And we could talk about the vice president who Kennedy chose for the vice presidential nominee. We could talk about that and some other issues, and maybe some issues where they're going to dig up Kennedy's past and find all of this stuff. But just looking at what he is doing, what Kennedy is saying, where he is going, and this powerful movement of understanding the political process as a third party candidate and learning very quickly, or at least understanding, very quickly, and being very successful at it. Kennedy is doing an outstanding job, an amazing job with everything that he's doing. That's the way I see it, anyways. Successful. All right, so I check my audio there. Audio seems to be all right. Okay. Kennedy also said this is also part of the press release from January 23rd, 2024. We had people ages 18 to 88 collecting signatures for RFK Jr. Or this is from the campaign. This is a quote actually from Larissa Trexler. She's the Northeast Regional Field Director of Team Kennedy. She says, we had people ages 18 to 88 collecting signatures for RFK Jr. A lot of New England was represented. We made this our primary. That's powerful. When I heard that, it said we made this our primary, because what we're seeing now, collecting the ballots, getting Kennedy's name on the ballots, is the primary. This is the caucus. This is the convention. This is what every future third party candidate and team can use what Kennedy is doing right now as a model for the future, so we can ensure that we have in the future more third party candidates. He is opening this door. He is creating this process that can be mirrored for future third party candidates. Everything that Kennedy is doing is going to help us make sure that we do have more than just two choices, and that we do have more than just this two-party system that thinks that people are just going to kick back and at the end decide to vote for the lesser of two evils. And that's it. Now, my view on Donald Trump is he's not a Republican. My view, my vote for Donald Trump is not because I want to vote for the lesser of two evils. Like I said many times, you should never vote for evil. If I thought Donald Trump was evil, or if I didn't think that he was the best choice, I would not vote for Donald Trump. But I don't think anybody should vote for Donald Trump just because, well, he's better than Biden. That's not a good reason to vote for Donald Trump, in my opinion. And what we are seeing here is we are going to see more and more people who have more options and more choices. And that is going to invigorate people, to get them more involved and make them want to actually look at the candidates who are running and not just think, well, they don't really have a chance of winning. What Kennedy can do is show people that, yes, you can have a chance of winning if you take these certain steps. This is a historical process that RFK Jr. is bringing us to. He's going to show this nation and show the world that it is possible to win outside of the two-party system. And really, even if a popular president like Donald Trump, I believe Donald Trump is probably one of the most popular presidents ever at this time. The media will tell you that he's not, but I just don't buy it. And of course, it's the same media that will tell us how great Joe Biden is. So take that for what it's worth. All right, the last thing that is said here is, led by the campaign's ballot access and field team volunteers from across New Hampshire and every state in New England came together to gather voter signatures at nearly 100 precincts from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. So from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m., it was locked up. New Hampshire was locked up. They only needed 3,000 people to sign, and believe me, they got more than that. So there is that. So that is number 2, right? So we had Utah, New Hampshire, Hawaii is number 3. On February 22nd, 2024, a press release from TeamKennedy.com announced the third state to win Kennedy ballot accessibility, collecting the required 862 signatures to establish the We the People Party in Hawaii. Supporters submitted more than 3 times the required number of signatures. The official deadline to submit signatures was today, February 22nd, 2024. Mahalo to the people of Hawaii who made this great accomplishment possible. This is what Kennedy wrote to them. I'm inspired by how enthusiastic people are to collect signatures, create new political parties, and rally for real change. This kind of energy is what will get us onto the ballot in every state and fuel our voter registration and GOTV operation as we head towards Election Day. That's from the press release there from February 22nd, 2024. This is the first ballot access victory for the We the People Party. That's what I wrote. And it's very, very powerful. This is the first ballot access, maybe the second actually, but no, the first. It is the first. So Hawaii was the first one where, boom, it's done because Kennedy created this new political party called We the People. In California, this is going to be a big, big deal. The We the People Party in California is going to be a big, big deal because he can get on the ballot 75,000 people. We have millions of people just in San Francisco. There's hundreds of millions of people in the state of California. He only needs 75,000 people to register with the party affiliation of We the People in California. That gets Kennedy on the ballot in November. Very powerful and very possible. The We the People Party has one purpose: to get Kennedy on the ballot in all 50 states in Washington, D.C. And I said, what about the islands? Because we have the islands, Guam, and all these other islands. So Samoa, the Virgin Islands, Guam, and Puerto Rico. I'm curious to see what happens with that. So that's number 3. Hawaii is number 3. Number 4 is Nevada. Now, there's been some issues with Nevada. There's a court case that's going on. I'm not sure exactly where that is, but here's what we know. With 15,000 signatures in Nevada, Kennedy's campaign team and volunteers secured Kennedy's place on Nevada's presidential election ballot. Nevada became the 4th state to accomplish this victory for those of us who want to see Kennedy's name next to Joe Biden and President Donald J. Trump. If you believe the official count in 2020, it was a close race between President Trump and Biden. Now, with Kennedy added to the mix, this state could turn the state purple on November 5th. Shenanigans. Shenanigans reported on April 2nd, 2024. According to Team Kennedy press release, Team Kennedy believes we have, quote, Team Kennedy believes we have collected sufficient signatures to ensure Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Nicole Shanahan are on the Nevada ballot. However, Nevada invented a rule to disqualify the ballots. Corrupt DNC bosses conspired with the Nevada Secretary of State to claim the petitions needed to include a field for vice president. So they were told they had to include a field for the vice president later on. Here's what they continue to say. And they're in court. So this is what they're battling out. So even though Team Kennedy got enough signatures to get on the ballot in Nevada, Nevada is now contesting it. Now they're saying, well, you needed to have a vice president on there. They didn't tell them that before. That's why they're going to go to court, and I'm pretty sure, guess who's going to win? The press release from March 5th, March 5th, 2024 continues. The Nevada Secretary of State confirmed with our campaign that the petition didn't need a field for VP and is now changing their story. It doesn't matter if Nevada officials spin this rule change as a, quote, accident, as their actions speak louder than words. They know signatures are incredibly expensive to collect, and party bosses are determined to keep Robert F. Kennedy Jr. off the ballot. So what is probably going to happen, worst case scenario, best case scenario, they go to court, Team Kennedy wins. Worst case scenario, Team Kennedy has to go back out and get the 15,000 votes because those, not the votes, they have to collect 15,000 signatures that have the vice president's name on it. That's it. That's the only difference. So there's certain politicians in that state that are saying because Kennedy didn't have a vice presidential candidate, on those signatures, they're not valid. So they would have to go back and get the 15,000, which is doable, but it's all about time, wasting resources. This is election interference, very similar to what they're doing with President Trump. So that is the latest on Nevada. We'll see what happens with that. My guess is that it's going to go to court. Team Kennedy will win. But even if they lose, all they have to do is go back, get the 15,000 people that were signed up to get Kennedy's name on the ballot, and have them re-sign. That's worst case scenario. But it's taking up time and resources, and that's what the DNC wants. That's what they're hoping, because the DNC's pocketbooks are endless. It's fiat currency. It's Federal Reserve notes. February 9th, 2024, a new political party video. So this must be something I have about the new political party. Okay, so this is Kennedy talking about the new political party here. I guess I could read a little bit of that. But I want to skip here to North Carolina. April 1st, 2024, the We the People Party collected more than 23,000 signatures to get Kennedy on the ballot. They only needed 3,000. That's all they needed was 3,000, and they got 23,000. Impressive. Super impressive to get that many on the ballot, or on the, to get that many people to sign up. Kennedy's name will be on the ballot in 5 states, with more in progress. Here's what they say. The Team Kennedy team for April 1st, 2024. North Carolina was the 5th closest swing state in the 2020 presidential election, with a difference of just 1.34% of the vote between Presidents Biden and Trump. Wow. And now you add RFK Jr. to that, and what do you get? Should be interesting. Should be very interesting. Then to Idaho. Let's go on to Idaho. Some crazy stuff in Idaho. Getting Kennedy on the ballot in Idaho. Here is what happened. Less than 24 hours, Team Kennedy sent out a press release with the good news. Kennedy needed 1,000 signatures to get on the ballot here in Idaho, and he's already got over 2,000 and counting, and it's growing. Idaho becomes the 6th state to get Kennedy on the 2024 presidential election ballot so quickly. He is done. Moving on. April 9th, 2024, Nebraska. It became official. With double the signatures needed, Nebraska became the 7th state to officially add Kennedy to the 2024 presidential ballot. According to the press release, the campaign collected over 4,800 signatures. That's nearly twice as many as required. 2,500 signatures were required for Kennedy to qualify, and they got 4,800. So quickly. I mean, it's nuts. And the most recent one, April 13th, just a few days ago, Iowa. Big deal, Iowa. He is going to be on the ballot here in Iowa. In one day, Team Kennedy got enough signatures to get Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on the ballot in the state of Iowa. From the Kennedy campaign press release, here's what they say. On Saturday, April 13th, nearly 1,000 people came to the Val Air Ballroom in West Des Moines, Iowa, in support of putting Bobby on the ballot. Iowa offers a special way to achieve ballot access in one day by having 500 eligible voters in the state attend an assembly and sign a form attesting they were present at the event. Now, the team was able to get over 650 eligible Iowa voters to sign the assembly form. There is a speech Kennedy gives on this the same day that should have some great quotes in it. I believe it's going to have some awesome quotes in it. If you have not seen that video, you can look up his YouTube channel, Team Kennedy 2024. Iowa becomes the eighth state to make history for RFK Jr. and all of us who want to see Kennedy's name on the ballot. There it is, the big eight, the top eight, the first eight. So awesome. Now, usually Iowa requires 3,500 signatures for presidential candidates to get on the ballot, and there must be at least 100 signatures in 19 counties. But for independent candidates, they can use the convention process, which only requires 500 signatures in total from eligible electors across 25 counties. This is a great way for the first in the nation state to show its support for competition against a two-party system. Other requirements were they were electing a convention chair, secretary, and a central committee. Now, the certification of nomination requires Kennedy to create a process to fill the ballot vacancies if he were to withdraw or be removed. I found that a little bit strange. Great article by the Des Moines Register, dated 4/13/2024 by Brianne Fanastyle. And so that is where we are at right now. That's just some of the written notes that I have here for that chapter about the process of Kennedy getting on the ballot in these different states. And that's only 8 states. You can see these tactics, and you can see why the DNC is ramping up everything that they can to go after RFK Jr. This is a serious candidate. RFK Jr. is not someone to be taken lightly, and he is proving why they should take him seriously. And this is only going to increase. So what I want to do right now is I want to go to look at this map. All right, so we're going to look at the Kennedy24.com. You just go where it says go get Bobby and Nicole on the ballot. You click on that, it's going to show you this map. This is the map. Dark purple, done. All done. These are all the states. You can see those. The ones in light purple, it's coming. That means these are the ones that are in progress. And then the ones that are grayed out, that are gray, those are the ones that the window is not open yet. So interesting. DC is not open yet. New York, Rhode Island, Tennessee, Wisconsin, Minnesota, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Colorado, and Walla Walla, Washington. But just about all of them, this looks really good for Team Kennedy. I mean, look at this. This looks really good. His chances of just getting him on the ballot. Now, again, that's just part of the battle. That's just, that, and that's why they need to move so quickly, because then then all they have to do is spend the rest of the time on making sure that Kennedy wins in 2024 in November. So they're moving the ball, and the Democrats are just kind of sleeping on it, and the Republicans aren't really paying that much attention to it either. But this is a big deal. This map is growing. You can see, you click on the different state, whatever state you are part of, you can click on it and you can see what is needed in that state. How close can Kennedy get? Let's go and look at Florida. Just because Florida, this is a big one. Now they need 145,000. It doesn't look like they have the We the People party there, but they're going to need the We the People party there, because that's a lot. That's a lot that they need, and they need that by July 15th is the end date. You can start at any time now. California is another big one, but like we said, they just need 75,000. But you can see the difference because California shows the We, the people, but it's still, they have just what, we're in April, May, June, July. They got 4 months to get 75,000 registrations. And so those are those for me, those are two big ones. Let's go look at Texas, because Texas is going to be another big one, 113,000. And again, no, we the people, but they do have this, like I was saying, this Texas, in the Texas Independent Party. So maybe that number will drop, or maybe, it may not be that difficult. Georgia is going to be another key one here. And look at that. Look at that. They only need 7,500, and they have until August to get that. That's a very good sign there. Another big state is going to be Arizona. Arizona, 42,000. No We the People Party here. So they got to get that We the People Party in some of these other states. I don't know the process. I'm learning as they teach me, as they go. This process, like I said, this process that Team Kennedy is doing is going to set a precedent for all future third party candidates. All future third party candidates can learn from this. If you ever wanted to be a third party candidate to run for the president, you can really look at what Kennedy is doing. This is how it can be done. And it's sad to see that Colorado, that isn't open yet. I know they've been trying to keep Kennedy off. We know they've been trying to keep Trump off. That just says they need 12,000. I don't know why the window isn't open yet. Maybe because of the court cases. Minnesota, to me, is also another big one. They only need 2,000 there. So I don't know why the window is not open yet there. So for me, I'm really curious these states that the window is not open yet, and what is going on there with Washington, with Oklahoma. I mean, come on, Louisiana. So it'd be interesting to see how far and what does he need in DC. I want to go look at that. In DC, 5,200. So, and that window is closed. That's in June. That may be one of the more earlier ones. What about New York? Because that's going to be another big one. 5. Whoops, I skipped that. So New York. Let me just go back there. New York is going to be another big one. They have 45,000, but look, I mean, it's that's not too much time. New York has got to be done quickly. That's what it looks like here. They need help in New York. This is just to get Kennedy on the ballot. That's all this is. 45,000 people in that state. And they only have another month, about 1 month. That's not a big time to get his name on the ballot. So those are key states there. And believe me, Kennedy's taking this seriously. You can see this. This is a serious thing. This guy is taking this stuff very seriously. And I do have a few Kennedy clips that I do want to play. And let's go ahead and look at some of the new ones that he's got here. And of course, I think a lot of the stuff people want to see is going to be about Kennedy dealing with these third party people. So let's go and look at I like this. I haven't seen this one, Hitting the Streets for Kennedy. This one is about 5 minutes. Let's look at this one. We'll play.
Good afternoon, everybody. You have a choice, and the candidate is Robert Kennedy Jr. for president 2024. Robert Kennedy. In November, you can vote for him. Everything changed. He's running for president 2024.
Can we put this in your window?
Can we put this in your window?
Just in the window here?
Thank you. Hola. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Robert Kennedy Jr.
I follow you.
Look at our economy. Robert Kennedy for president 2024. And we need change. Okay, you have a choice.
Hello. Thank you so much.
A flyer to let you know to come out and support him.
Is Brooklyn in the house?
When we walked in, it was massive wall-to-wall people. I says, we're not even going to get to see a piece of his hair.
Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
When I heard Bobby speak, I was amazed.
80% of the 4.3 trillion we spend on medicine is chronic disease.
The only man I can see that's fighting the against corruption is Robert Kennedy Jr.
Y'all ask Mr. Kennedy some questions.
When he took the question and answer period, that's where he got to hear Renee's question.
If you become our next president, will you do federal oversight on how this money is being distributed to local cities, states, and governments because the people are not getting the resources?
Yes, I'm going to invite you to the White House and you and I are going to talk about it.
And so they marched us up there. We got to meet him. And I said, that's it. We're going to do this for him.
I get up 4 o'clock in the morning and start work. And I have done the research on every statistic before I go in there with me and my volunteers.
I could sit there with the papers there and do it, and that way when I'm ready, I got all my information.
Christina, you're just joining us for the first time with phone banking, and I'm going to make a phone call to show you exactly how we do the phone bank. Good morning. My name is Renee Mitchell. I'm with the Kennedy campaign.
We need change, and we want to get Mr. Kennedy into that office.
Can Mr. Kennedy count on you for your support?
Yes, for sure.
Thank you. We done made over 2,000 phone calls, and we done mailed out over 1,000 flyers already. So this is nothing new. This is like a 9-to-5 job for us. And, it's fun. We have a list of all the registered voters, names, address, phone number, and District 47.
Kennedy 2024. And you can read all this.
We're with Robert Kennedy. Campaign is running for president. And we'd like to, have the full support of the community because he supports small business owners. He's going up against Big Farm. He's going up against BlackRock. Okay, he's going up against the military complex. He wants to end war and heal the divine. Yes, we need change. Better, yes. Okay, we need to get rid of Republican and Democrat. They're not doing nothing for the people. Robert Kennedy Jr.
I follow you.
Thank you.
That's right.
God bless you.
Once they hear about Bobby and they hear about things that need to be changed, a lot of them turn around and say, you're right. Okay, I'm tired of both parties.
We want a safe country.
Okay.
No crime.
I'm tired of corruption. I'm tired of inside trade deals, kickbacks. I'm tired of the open borders. And I don't think the Republican or the Democrat Party, okay, is helping anything. Economy is very bad. Okay, it's a lot of things going on that needs to be addressed. The most important thing to keep in mind is to try to be humble and friendly as possible. If they disagree with you, don't try to get into a confrontation and ask them why. Just keep moving and going to the next. Yes, Robert Kennedy Jr. Yes. Okay, thank you.
Hi, I'm with the Kennedy campaign. I listen to what they're saying, but then I basically turn around and say, well, I'm going to give you this information on Bobby. And you know what? Give it a chance and read it. Yes, I think I spoke with you. Yeah, so we're handing out these cards now. It gives all the information for him, because we really want to get the word out there to people.
Could you tell us what your issues is, what you're most concerned about with this president campaign?
I don't think I'm any different than any other person. The economy is brutal. We're struggling. And now the crime rate and the border.
The joy for me is that I may change this country by what I'm doing. My little act is a big act.
To have somebody come into the White House that actually really there to fight for the people and want to give the country back to the people so the people can raise their kids and live a decent, safe, healthy lifestyle, I think that's awesome.
Kennedy 2024. I'm
Okay.
gonna vote for you and my whole family.
Yay!
Yay!
That's beautiful. That's a beautiful, beautiful thing there. And so to contrast that just a little bit, or to let me just give that the like here. I want to go to this next one because I feel like this is kind of Trump's version of that. Let's go and look at this one.
So an unforgettable moment on the campaign trail for one voter who got a big hug from Trump at an Atlanta Chick-fil-A while he met with supporters. Watch.
I don't care what
the media tells you, Mr. Trump, we support you.
We love you.
Okay, 4 p.m. We've been 4 p.m.
Come here, let me give you a hug.
Please
Look at the joy. Here to tell us about it is that young woman herself, Michaela Montgomery. She's also the founder of a grassroots political group to conserve the culture. Michaela, I've been waiting for this interview all morning. So
I've been waiting for this my whole life.
So thanks so much for joining us. So you told the president when you were hugging him, I don't care what the media says, we support you. Tell me what you meant by that.
I am so glad that is the first question you asked me.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, in the excitement of everything, I wasn't able to really relay my message, but the general consensus or social media would have you thinking that if President Trump were to show up to the HBCU campuses or walk around the ABC community, that like some angry mob would form or a riot would ensue and that he would not be welcome. And clearly the sentiment in that room the other day was the complete opposite. He was very welcome. People were excited to see him. People showed up in support of him. And people, of course, were from all 4 institutions within the AUC, the local HBCU community in Atlanta. And they all showed up in support of him. So it's actually kind of crazy to see people in an uproar when all 4 institutions were legitimately represented and all 4 institutions were represented by said students who wanted to support President Trump.
You know, Michaela,
and I really appreciate that we were able to not only let him know that regardless of what social media says, you know, I know they're trying to make us think we're supposed to hate you, but we don't. And additionally, it was a learning experience for my students because they were able to see and experience firsthand how the media can warp the perception of an opinion or a person. Because like I said, to think that these students who attend these illustrious institutions aren't smart enough to make their own decisions, much so that they would only show support for Trump because he bought chicken sandwiches and milkshakes.
It's offensive.
That in itself is the most disturbing part of it all, especially when you think about the fact that it was mainly urban media outlets that were doing everything in their power to turn other Black people against these young Black kids who simply were not shy to explore other options.
It's so incredible. And I think you hit it on the head. By the way, the former president gave a lot of funding to HBCUs. One of the highlights of my childhood was my HBCU tour to figure out what college I wanted to go to. But tell me about the former president and his policies. What is it about him that is gravitating these young people toward the president? And a lot of people, traditionally, Republicans don't do well in Black America. But a lot of young Black Americans like the former president. What is it about him?
I think, and this is a sentiment I get a lot coming from the young people themselves, is that they feel like he's honest. They feel like this is somebody who, while we might not agree with how he says things, how he goes about things, at least he's telling us what it is. We don't feel like this is a snake in the grass waiting for his chance to bite us. This is somebody who's telling us, this is what my plan is. Here's how I plan to execute it. Here's the people involved. And here's how you can get involved. So they just feel like he's more relatable. And I don't say that to say that, like, you know, they all relate to him. But again, he gives you that relatable feeling to where it's like, hey, I'm just like you. You know me. This is what you said you wanted. Here's what I'm going to try to do about it. They really feel like this is somebody who's talking to them and not just saying what they want to hear.
Such a good point. Michaela, what has Biden done for our community? What has he done for Black America?
Well, he locked up a lot of people that look like me, and they're still sitting in jail waiting for, you know, justice and appeal of some sort. So when it comes to what Joe Biden has done for Black America, if we look specifically at his record as a senator, it wasn't something that benefited us at all. If anything, one could argue that he dedicated his entire senatorial career to disrupting the way of life, you know, for Black people. He didn't want Black kids going to the same school as his kids. He didn't want Black people walking on the sidewalk along with his mother and grandmother. So the fact that we ignore these things that were said on the Senate floor, like this is somebody who passed legislation with the sole intent of oppressing a certain community. And we're going to act like that didn't happen, or we're going to act like it can be overshadowed by somebody's comments a few years down the line that made us feel some type of way. Feeling some type of way is completely different when you can feel a certain type of way at home. There's people who are, you know, as of right now, spending the rest of their lives in jail because, you know, Joe Biden thought that they deserved it, as if there isn't retribution. And then you had somebody like Trump come in and give us the First Step Act to try and right the wrongs that were done with this 3 strikes rule. And nobody's talking about that.
Michaela, I need more time with you. We got to go to
you can call me whenever.
We'll make it happen. We'll bring you back on and we'll talk about the president's plan to win more.
I like the I like the mention of the First Step Act because I haven't really heard too much about that. And obviously, you know, I watched every speech, I watched every press conference from the day that President Trump took office. I've seen them all, and I've seen him mention all of these things that the media never gives him credit for, that they never talk about. And so it's interesting to hear the first step. It's interesting to hear what President Trump has done to reform the prison system to get people out of prison who should not be there, who should have never been there. And I love what she says about Joe Biden talking about Black people, what he has said on the Senate floor, and the racial things that Joe Biden has said that the media doesn't want to talk about. They want to act like President Trump is this racist, while at the same time you have many quotes and a lot of evidence that it's really Joe Biden. And so a lot of times when you hear things that they accuse President Trump of, you can probably trace it back to, you know, that's really what Joe Biden has done. And the media doesn't want to talk about that. So we see that. And I think a lot of people see that. That was an awesome interview. I was really happy to see that. And so let's go and look at now some of these quotes. I'm just going to go a few more minutes. And we can look at some of these videos. Here we go within some of these key swing states that we talked about that I really hope, I really, really hope that Kennedy can get on the ballot in these key swing states here. It's going to be impressive if he can do it. Very impressive. So we'll see. I don't really like Laura Ingraham, but let's see what she has to say about this.
They hope that keeping Donald Trump off the campaign trail and any sort of details that emerge, that will all turn the tide for Biden in November. You cannot risk, after all, the people actually choosing their own president. Can't do that, especially when...
Yeah, she's kind of horrible. There's the hush money. So there's another one about the... You know what? There is a good one with pretty good quality here. It may... Oh, I haven't seen this. Let's see.
Happy tax day to everyone. This year, the typical family's tax bill is thousands of dollars lower because of the Trump tax cuts. We doubled your standard deduction. We doubled the child tax cuts, and we lowered income tax rates for everyone. A very big thing. Everybody was very happy when we did that. But if Joe Biden gets his way, you will soon be facing colossal tax hikes, the likes of which no one has ever seen before. Almost $6 trillion in his latest budget and going up. In addition, every day you're also paying stealth tax of Joe Biden's massive inflation. A stealth tax like nobody's seen before either, because frankly, the inflation is probably the worst ever, but certainly the worst in the last 70 years. It's been a disaster for the American taxpayer. It's been a disaster for the American citizen. Every dollar in your bank account is worth 20 to 30% less than the day Joe Biden took office, a wealth confiscation on a scale our country has never seen before. Joe Biden looted the Treasury, spending trillions of dollars on the Green New scam, open borders, and other payoffs to his political cronies. Biden stole your money and used it to give rich people $7,500 tax credits to buy luxury electric cars. It's so ridiculous. They don't go far. They just are not the right ones. If you want to buy one, go buy one. but you have to have a choice of lots of other forms of transportation, and that's what we do. We provide everybody with everything. He used to give welfare and free housing to illegal aliens from all over the world, and now he's doing it at a level that has never been seen before. Meanwhile, you're paying the price in your tax bills and in your grocery bills, which have gone higher than ever in our history. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Congratulations. You voted for this guy, but you didn't vote enough, because I'll tell you what, take a look at that election. Take a look at the real numbers. You're not going to be happy, but we're going to do it right. I'll tell you, this year is the most important year in the history of our country, because on November 5th, we have an election. The election day, November 5th, will go down as the most important day in the history of our country, because we're going to get rid of the worst president we've ever had. A vote for Crooked Joe is a vote for the largest tax hike in American history, uncontrolled spending, a menacing migrant invasion like never seen before, and rampant inflation as far as the eye can see. A vote for Trump is a vote for low taxes, no inflation, strong borders, and the greatest economy in the history of the world. Remember, this is what you have to think about when you go in to vote. You're going to get the greatest economy ever. You're going to get the greatest tax cuts ever, because we're cutting them lower. Biden wants to increase your taxes by 4 times. I'm going to substantially decrease your taxes over and above what you already got, which was the largest tax reduction in the history of our country. It's one of the reasons we created the best economy we've ever had. Thank you very much.
He talks about here, who will explain for me to my wonderful son Barron, who is a great student at a fantastic school, that his dad will likely not be allowed to attend his graduation ceremony. Something that we have been talking about for years, because a seriously conflicted and corrupt New York State judge wants me in criminal court on a bogus, quote unquote, Biden case, which, according to virtually all legal scholars and pundits, has no merit and should never have been brought. This fake case is solely meant to attack crooked Joe Biden's political opponent, me, who is seriously leading him in the polls for purposes of election interference. The judge, Juan Merchan, is preventing me from proudly attending my son's graduation. Seems very unfair, doesn't it? But this whole event is unfair. Every one of the many fake cases that are perpetrated by the White House in order to help the worst president in history by far get reelected are unjust scams. We won't let that happen, but we will make America great again. Right? That was posted earlier today. Good stuff here. So those are just some of the latest things that Trump has posted on Truth Social. I believe that's all I wanted to cover regarding his Truth Social. I haven't seen this. This is about a 1.5 minute clip. Let's see what this is. If it'll play, or maybe not. All right. Okay, no play there. It's weird. All right. I guess that one is not meant to be played. I will try again. Truth Social's got to work on that. Let's see if I can get this one to play, or else I'll move on. I got a few other clips I want to play with Kennedy.
Donald Trump did nothing wrong! 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 And we're going to be here every single day talking to all of you fake news media freaks and letting you know that Donald Trump did nothing wrong until you start to report the truth. Judge Merchan's wife literally works for Letitia James. Michael Cohen's lawyer, Andrew Lombard, his Twitter profile banner is a photo of him with Letitia James talking about how they talk about getting Trump. He said that he had fundraisers for Kamala Harris. Tell me that this isn't a witch hunt. How is this fair? How is You want to get on the bullhorn?
Yeah, absolutely.
Got Andrew Giuliani here.
Andrew!
Woo!
Thank you, Laura. Thank you. You're absolutely right. We got to be out here for President Trump. Let him know they did nothing wrong. Let him know this is a political persecution by prosecution of the leading candidate for President of the United States. That's what's going on here. That's what's going on in the United States of America. The facts, think about this. They're so weak in this case that Joe Biden would not even bring this case. That's how bad this is. It took a Soros-funded district attorney in order to bring this case. There's no underlying felony.
It's pretty interesting. That's pretty good. I don't know how good the audio is. This is really interesting. I did not see this until earlier today. About 10 hours ago, Elon Musk said the case is obviously a corruption of the law called lawfare. I want to see more. I would like to see more collaboration between President Trump and Elon Musk. I'd like to see them do a merger, like back when the WWF and WCW merged into one company. I'd like to see Truth Social and X do some type of a merger. I don't think it's going to happen, especially after the thing that just happened with Truth Social, but it would be nice. Either way, it is nice to see Elon Musk talking positively about President Donald J. Trump, and he needs all the support that he's going to get. And another guy who needs your support is this guy named Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Kennedy 2024. I do hope that you will consider voting for Kennedy in 2024 to end the forever wars, clean up government, restore the middle class, tell Americans the truth. I like it. It's a good platform there. It's a pretty good platform. Yeah, put it here, put it there. That's great. And then I got this other one, make love, not war. Believe me, this is grassroots. I've heard Kennedy say many times about the boomers, that the boomers are the ones that don't support him. I don't believe that, I'm not buying that. I think the boomers are maybe not the ones that are being polled, that are part of these polls, but I think he's got a lot more support from the boomers than he gives himself credit for. And that's just my view on it. Either way, we got some pretty good chances to make America great again. And I look forward to that. And I just want to thank everyone who has been a part of that, everyone who has been helping to make this country great again, because we need it. This country needs it. We deserve it. With all the things that are happening in Israel, with Iran, all the misconceptions, Biden standing there doing nothing, letting Iran do whatever they want to do, he says, and their administration says, their message to Iran is one word: don't. Come on. Yeah, somebody's standing there punching you in the face. Don't. It doesn't work like that. The world does not work like that. So I really hope, and I have a lot of faith in the American people, in the American voters, because that's what really matters here. There are a lot of people that may want to vote, they cannot vote. And the American voters have to stand up for those people too. And that is, our vote is not just for us. It is for this country. It is for the people who are not eligible to vote, for the people who cannot vote, and for the people that won't be able to make it out there to vote. Your vote counts. Your vote counts, not just for you, but it counts for the good of this country. So I do hope a lot of people will get out there and vote. We'll play one more Donald Trump clip here. It's about a 5-minute one. Haven't seen
Our
this yet.
nation is right now crossing a very dangerous threshold in the middle of a presidential election, right smack in the middle. Crooked Joe Biden and his entire corrupt party are staging a show trial of their leading political opponent, me. They want me to go on trial. It's totally crooked. It's totally corrupt. It's never been done before. In a completely illegitimate act of election interference, they're trying to jail their opposition as if they were Stalinist Russian or communist Chinese or Castro's Cuba or socialist Venezuela. As you witness this Biden trial, I ask all Americans to remember that this is not just about me. This is about our country, and this is about you. Whether you're a Republican, Democrat, or independent, we should all be horrified by the corruption of the system of justice. What's taking place in our country has never happened before. They go after Biden's political opponent because he can't do it. He's weak. He's ineffective. He's totally out of it. He can't walk off a stage from a speech, and he can't put two sentences together. So how do you do it? Go after his opponent. This is Biden attacking democracy, a continuation of the greatest witch hunt of all time. From Russia, 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 you know how that ended. No problem. To Ukraine, 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 impeachment hoax number one, impeachment hoax number two, and so many more. The same group of thugs and their fake news allies have been trying to lie, cheat, and steal their way back into power. They want to stay in power. They want to get back in power. The moment they lost in 2016, it all began. They said, we're never going to let that happen again. And I'll tell you what, if we lose this election, you may never have another election. These are the Russia hoax people, a hoax that never happened, a Russia investigation that was ridiculous and a waste of $100 million and much more than that. And now we have the same people, the same scum that are weaponizing the entire justice system to persecute us on fake charges, even while Joe Biden is the most corrupt president in the history of our country. And he gets off scot-free with the documents. He gets off scot-free. There's nobody that ever took documents like his. Now, of course, Hillary Clinton did, if you remember, bust up all of her phones and acid wash them because she didn't want to give anything after getting a subpoena from the United States Congress. But there's nobody like Crooked Joe. Joe, what he's done with documents is ridiculous. And unlike me, totally protected by the Presidential Record Act. If you look at the Presidential Records Act and read it carefully, you'll see I'm totally protected. He didn't come under the Presidential Records Act. What he did was terrible, and he got off scot-free. The Biden crime family took millions of dollars of China, Ukraine, Russia, and other countries and sent it to dozens of shell companies that were paying at least 9 family members. Yet nothing happens to Crooked Joe. Nothing happens to Democrats. The reason the Biden regime is tearing down every law to try and stop me is because I am the one that's fighting to defend you from their entire corrupt system. Remember, I'm in the way. Without me, there's nobody in the way. As these sick people have come after me, they're also coming after you. They want to take away your freedom of speech and punish you and your thoughts and political beliefs. They want to flood our country with millions and millions of migrants, which they're doing, redistribute your money to illegal aliens, and then give them the right to vote. That's what they really want. With all these people pouring in, they want to get them the right to vote. They want to ban gas-powered automobiles, go to a ridiculous car that doesn't go very far, doesn't go very long, and inflate away your wealth with trillions and trillions of dollars given to their political cronies, which is what they're doing. They want to indoctrinate your children in our schools and change this country into a nation you no longer even recognize. And it's getting very close to that point. They are attacking our democracy in all these ways in a desperate effort to cling to power. We are the ones standing in their way, and that is the way it's going to be. I will always be standing in their way. Biden's fake show trials, and every one of them is a Biden trial. They worked together with the Justice Department, with the attorneys at the DOJ, whether it's Fani or whether it's any of the others, they're all working with Washington and the DOJ because they're trying to get Biden elected because he can't put two sentences together. Joe Biden and his thugs are doing everything they can to burn down our democracy. You need to save American democracy. Vote Trump. If you look at the upcoming calendar, you're going to see a date, November 5th. November 5th will become the most important day in the history of our country. We will make America great again. Thank you. On day one, we will terminate every open borders policy of the Biden administration and begin the largest domestic deportation operation in American history, starting with all of the criminals that are pouring in, the criminals and the terrorists. And you know who's going to tell us who they are? Our local police. Our local police, because our local police know their names, their middle names, their phone numbers. They know everything about them. One of the most important issues in this race will be how Joe Biden's border invasion is also going to obliterate Medicare and Social Security for American seniors. What he's doing by allowing millions, 15 million, 20 million people this year, I think it's already 15, he's destroying your Social Security. He's destroying your Medicare and many things else. He's also destroying your way of life. If the millions of Biden migrants are allowed to stay as Joe Biden intends, they will cost taxpayers trillions and trillions of dollars, and Medicare and Social Security will buckle and they will collapse. You know, it's very tenuous. You understand that? You can't do it. No country can sustain what's happening. We are being invaded, and invaded by a lot of people that are people we don't want in our country. I will never, ever let that happen. Social Security will be strong and powerful. Medicare will be strong. You deserve it. The Treasury will be raped, plundered, and robbed bare to pay for welfare, free health care, free housing, food stamps, Medicaid, and countless other public benefits. And think of it, the legions and legions of Biden migrants pouring into it's really becoming a third world country. We are actually becoming, if you think about it, a third world country. And we're not going to let that happen. We're not going to let it happen. So to every Wisconsin voter, if you want to help Joe Biden wheel Granny off the cliff, remember what they had? They had that with Paul Ryan, not my favorite person, by the way. I remember after I won the election in 2016, I had a hall very much like this. It was packed. And I introduced Paul Ryan. The place booed the hell out of him. I said, I guess they don't like him too much. That was when they used to like him by comparison. They like him a lot less now. If you want to help Joe Biden wheel Granny off the cliff to fund government benefits for illegals, then vote for crooked Joe Biden. But when I am president, instead of throwing Granny overboard, I will send Joe Biden's illegal aliens back home. You're going back home. And if they know that, remember this, if they know that, they're not coming. You know, the problem is Biden got up and he said, welcome, everybody. Welcome to the world. We'll give you free education. We'll give you everything, but welcome to the world. And they came, and they're coming now. There's a massive caravan right now coming through Mexico, and nobody is stopping it. In Venezuela, crime is down. I'm sure you're going to be very happy to hear this. Crime is down in Venezuela by 67% because they're taking their gangs and their criminals and depositing them very nicely into the United States. Aren't you happy? Think of it. Who goes down 67%? They went down. Look at this man. I call him the Wall. He's got the nicest suit. I want to get one of those suits. We built a lot of wall. We had the best numbers ever. We're going to put them up here. I think we're going to put them up pretty soon. You're going to see something that just came out that's incredible. But think of it. Venezuela, which was that was an enemy when I left, an enemy, and they were ready to fold. Now they're supplying us with oil. I wouldn't have even thought to buy oil from them. But more importantly, their crime rate is down to it's down by 67%. And the reason is they've taken their gangs and their criminals and they brought them into the United States. Oh, wait till you see next year. They'll be pretty soon. They'll be at no crime, zero crime in the entire country of Venezuela, the beautiful country of Venezuela. In fact, we'll be going to Venezuela for vacations. Yeah, it's built a lot of it. They're sending prisoners, murderers, drug dealers, mental patients, terrorists. The worst of every country is coming into our country now. They're coming from the Congo, Yemen, Somalia, Syria, all over the world. They're coming. They're country changing, country threatening, and they're country wrecking. They're destroying our country. They're destroying, we can drill.
He's right again about what they're doing, what the plan is. And I love hearing Kennedy and Trump both talk about the same major issues. Now they separate on some things, and there's been a lot of great Kennedy clips lately. I'm a little nervous to play some of them, at least for another 2 or 3 weeks here. But maybe I'll take that risk. But I do hope people, if you do want to stay in touch with what Kennedy is doing, go to Kennedy24.com. If you want to stay in touch with what Donald Trump is doing, there's DonaldJTrump.com. I did want to go and look at some of Kennedy's most recent things that he's posted on to Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it. There is some good stuff there. Always going to find some really good clips. And he does make some comments about the baby boomers. But, I was able to find some very interesting stuff. Just kind of looking, just searching for RFK Jr., searching for Kennedy. And you find a lot of good things that Kennedy is saying, talking about. Some interesting things with Kennedy's wife too, with he and his wife. This isn't. I don't think I've seen this one here. I'm going to see if I can share this. This is a good one. This may be a good one. Let's go. Back to the tab. I haven't seen this one.
You hear the back and forth here on the border. Good to see you. And the excuses really that we've heard from President Biden about why his hands are tied on this issue. He can't do anything, even given the extreme crisis that Americans are saying they see there.
Yeah, it's not true what Secretary Mayorkas said. I can tell you from having spent a lot of time at the border, it's just not true. One of the big problems is that President Biden halted, and I was not for the wall. So I want to say that at the outset. I am now, because I've been at the border. I watched 300 people come across in 2 hours between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. Just walk across the border, brought there in buses by the Sinaloa drug cartel. They're coming through one of 27. I
just want to say, I absolutely love that. I really love that Kennedy will say, well, I wasn't for the border, but I am now. That's what I want from a president, even from a presidential candidate. And I think a lot of people, it's very refreshing to hear that. And I think when we find things that Kennedy agrees with Trump, that's where the media is like, we have another Trump here. Guy's just masking as a Trump person. And then, Trump's team comes out and they try to attack on Kennedy. Even Trump's son went after RFK Jr. It's like, I don't think you guys really understand. I don't agree with them. I don't think they know what they're talking about. And that's why that one clip where President Trump kind of goes after Kennedy seems very, very different. It's like half scripted, where half of it is like he's going after Kennedy. The other half, he keeps saying that he likes him. And you can tell that President Trump likes RFK Jr. Their similarities and their differences are exactly what this country needs right now. At least that's my view on it. Let's play a little bit more of this. I have not heard this or seen this.
7 gaps. Those gaps should have been closed 3.5 years. They're coming through one of 27 gaps. Those gaps should have been closed 3.5 years ago. But President Biden, the material is sitting on the ground next to the gaps. President Biden and Secretary Mayorkas ordered the fence stopped. The construction of the fence, the material's already been purchased. And that's where everybody's coming through. So all they need to do is to seal those gaps in the fence. They also tore down, they're in the remote areas. You don't need the big wall, but you need the fence, you need sensors, you need long range cameras, you need nighttime video. and you need the access roads. And those were already in place. And President Biden and Secretary Mayorkas ordered them dismantled. So the physical barriers were deliberately dismantled out of pettiness. Apparently, that's the least kind of insidious interpretation of why they did it. But that's an easy thing to do. The other things that they need to do, they need to restore the Migrant Protection Act, which he can do through executive order, which says that people who want to adjudicate their asylum claims need to adjudicate them in Mexico before they come across.
Which is, I mean, that was in place under the former president. But he doesn't want to do any of these things, obviously, because he would be doing them if he wanted to do these things.
Right. And what I'm saying to you, that the claim that Secretary Mayorkas made before Congress today, that he had doubts about the illegality of the executive order. This is not true. What he's saying is simply not true. He could seal that fence without even an executive order. All he has to do is call construction companies on the border and say, finish the fence. The material is sitting there. So it's not there's no legal challenge to that. It could be done overnight, and they're just not doing it. And there's 100 other things they ought to be doing that they're not doing.
That's right, and that's true. That's another good clip. I hadn't seen that one, so glad to see that. See if I missed anything else. There's some Aaron Rodgers clip. That's interesting. Wow. I may have to, have to play this one too. This is about a 5-minute clip with Aaron Rodgers. Let me see if I can maximize that. I did want to get into, I never made it to talk about RFK Jr., where he talks about how Biden is worse than President Trump. These will be things that I will be adding to the book. But this looks like a pretty interesting clip. I think I'm going to play this. It's about 5 minutes long. I may not mute myself, and let's see what he has to say. This is retweeted by RFK Jr.
That's what I feel like Bobby can give us, is that hope that life can be different. And just the fact that I was mentioned, I'm sure people were like, oh, he has no, political experience. How's that worked out so far?
Yeah.
How's that worked out in our government? All these fucking bums who've been in government forever, who are insider trading like crazy and lining their pockets during their terms and post-career. How's that working out?
Yeah.
How's that working out for the average Joe, middle class, or lower middle class like I grew up? How's that working out for those people? Not too good. How's it working out? Housing prices, cost of food, the inflation that's going on.
Healthy food.
Chronic disease that we have in this country. Homelessness, unemployment. How's it working out? As we give, billions of dollars to Ukraine to fight a proxy war. We have a southern border that's, being invaded. You listen to Mr. Weinstein on Rogan, it's pretty scary, some of the stuff that's going on, the different camps that are down there of individuals. Some people, Chinese nationalists of military age, other, South American, Central American people, kind of different ways of they're treated in their different camps, and a lot of scary stuff there. But just the country's in a bad place. Yeah. And it's not going to get better with Weekend at Bernie's, who can barely put a sentence together, if that's even him.
Yeah.
It's not going to get better.
Right.
I don't think with Mr. President Trump, who had 4 years to do it and kept Anthony Fauci in charge after his record on AIDS, with AZT, with all these other ridiculous, supposed pandemics that he was in charge of.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And how the chronic disease level since he's been in some sort of office in the 80s has exponentially gotten worse. Autism rates have gotten worse. Childhood diseases, comorbidities, just the general health and wellness of our society. Look at old like 1950s and 60s presidential fitness programs where everybody's fit. Look at pictures of the beach.
Exactly.
We have like healthy, skinny people, and now you have, a high percentage of kids are obese. High percentage of adults are morbidly obese. You had the majority of people dying from COVID had at least 3 comorbidities that they were dealing with. Like, we're not getting better having these people in charge.
Yeah.
So why not make a change? And I'm going to support Bobby and keep spreading his message. But the 2-party system that we got in place doesn't work. Hasn't been working. Hasn't been working really since JFK was in office. And we need somebody who's willing to lay it on the line. That's what I love about Bobby. Think about it. They killed his uncle, killed his dad. We know CIA was involved, right? I mean, they can't declassify it because it's so damning. We know the FBI was involved. Hoover hated the Kennedys.
Yeah.
Hated them. Allen Dulles was fired as the director of the CIA after he botched the Bay of Pigs and tried to get Operation Northwoods to happen to literally start World War III and invade Cuba.
Mm-hmm.
He was fired. He was on fucking Warren Commission. Allen Dulles was. As was Gerald Ford, who was the right-hand man of J. Edgar Hoover, who hated the Kennedys. Like, we know they're involved. But so Bobby loses his uncle, JFK, his father, RFK. His cousin dies in a plane crash when he was running against Hillary Clinton. Like, I'm not saying that was conspiracy, but it's kind of a weird coincidence. Bobby's in danger, like he's putting himself on the line.
Yeah.
Why? Because he fucking believes in this country. He believes in this country. He believes in the good in people, and he believes he can make a difference. That's somebody I can get behind who's going to lay it on the line, because that is, like I said earlier, the archetype of everything we love about Luke Skywalker and Han Solo. Everything we love about Frodo and Sam and Aragorn and Gandalf and Merry and Pip, right? Everything that we love about Gamora and Groot and Rocket and Drax, like and Chris Pratt's character in Guardians.
Yeah.
It's these people believe in something. Sometimes they can't even explain it. Like in Gladiator, when Marcus Aurelius is talking to Maximus, and he's like, "What is the greatness of Rome? It's an idea. Right? What is the greatness of America? It's an idea, right? That we can be all the things that were written about in our declarative statements when this country was formed." And I think Bobby's the only way we can get back to on track to be in that America.
That was good. That was powerful. I hadn't seen that. It's a lot of great information there. Wow. Hope to hear more about that. And that's
what I feel like.
That's
Bobby
from Chief Nerd on X, and I think I follow him on. I think he's on YouTube maybe, but anyways, good, very good stuff there, and very shocking, some shocking things. But just to kind of maybe wrap some of this up here, is to get into a little bit of how RFK Jr. compares Trump and Biden. This may be a good way to wrap all this up into a nice little bow here.
A moment ago, you said you essentially see Trump and Biden as the same, different issues. But do you really believe that when people talk about the threat to democracy that Trump poses, do you really think that is an equal evil to Biden?
I mean, listen, I can make the argument that President Biden is a much worse threat to democracy. And the reason for that is President Biden is the first candidate in history, the first president in history.
See, I like how she's look at those notes. She's really flipping through them notes. Like, okay, if he says this, I'm going to go here. She's got all those notes. He ain't got no notes. Kennedy doesn't need any notes here.
That has used the federal agencies to censor political speech, so to censor his opponent. I can say that because I just won a case in the Federal Court of Appeals and now before the Supreme Court. It shows that he started censoring not just me for 37 hours after he took the oath of office. He was censoring me. No president in the country has ever done that. The greatest threat to democracy is not somebody who questions election returns, but a president of the United States who used the power of his office to force the social media companies, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, to open a portal and give access to that portal to the FBI, to the CIA, to the IRS, to CISA, to NIH, to censor his political critics. President Biden, for the first president in history, to use his power over the Secret Service to deny Secret Service protection to one of his political opponents for political reasons. He's weaponizing the federal agencies. Those are really critical threats
Donald
to
Trump,
democracy.
of course, tried to overturn a free and fair election.
See,
He tried to
she
overturn
has
one, right? Is he still
she
fighting?
wants to turn it back to Donald Trump. Donald Trump did not try to overturn an election. He asked questions like we all should ask questions. And I love RFK Jr.'s response to this. His response is classic. It is accurate. And you could tell she's reading off of a script. That's why she has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 pages of notes right there in front of her. And here we go.
In court.
Yes.
He said, how is that not a threat to democracy?
Well, I think that is a threat to democracy. If he did. Trying to overthrow the election clearly is a threat to democracy. But the question was, who is a worse threat to democracy? And what I would say is, I'm not going to answer that question, but I can argue that President Biden is, because the First Amendment, Aaron, is the most important. Adams and Hamilton and Madison said, we put the guarantee of freedom of expression in the First Amendment because all of our other constitutional rights depend on it. If you have a government that can silence its opponent, it has license for any atrocity.
So just to be clear, you're saying you could.
And you can see how they still keep trying to put it back to Kennedy. Even this headline here, RFK Jr. responds to Dem and GOP attacks. He's a spoiler. They are not taking him seriously. And they really need to get off of that, track. But they can't, because they need the two-party system to control whatever it is that they believe that they have been controlling for a long time.
Make an argument that President Biden is a worse threat to democracy than Donald Trump. That's what you just said.
But who else has ever tried to send, what president in history has ever tried to censor political opponents? What president has weapons?
Exactly. And Kennedy is talking about himself, that what Biden is doing to him, but he's also talking about what Biden is doing to Trump. It's crazy. It's crazy stuff here. As if this is going to really help Biden. It's not. And maybe there are powers that really want to get Biden out, and they're using this as another way to get him out.
Weaponize the federal agency. When my father came into the Justice Department, the first week he was there, he got all of the branch and division attorneys together, and he said, whatever we do, we are not going to use the power of the Justice Department for political reasons.
Trump, of course, has said that he would do that. He has said that he would do that.
Of course, and that is reprehensible.
And he is the only president who's tried to overthrow the results of an election.
He's not tried to overthrow the results of the election, though. It's just not true. And I know Kennedy's not going to go after that. He's not going to try to correct this person about what her views on that are. But I mean, you can't just say that Trump did that, and they act like Trump is guilty of that, and he's not. You can think that, and that's your right. That's your freedom of speech to think that Trump did that. But don't act like that is a fact, and anyone who doesn't believe that their views are not just as valid as yours are. You can believe that he did, and it's just as equal to believe that Trump didn't do that.
Well, let me say something about that. I'm not going to defend President Trump on that. That was appalling. And there's many things that President Trump has done that are appalling. But in 2001, we had an election stolen in this country during the Bush Gore election. In 2004, I wrote an award-winning article for Rolling Stone that showed how that election was stolen from John Kerry. So I don't think, and most Americans agree with me about 2001, that it was a stolen election from the Democratic Party candidate. So I don't think people who say that the election is stolen, not that we shouldn't make pariahs of those people. We shouldn't demonize them. We shouldn't vilify them. What we should be doing is saying, let's all get together, Republicans and Democrats, and fix the election system so that it cannot be fixed, so that we're the exemplary democracy of the world. We ought to, Las Vegas, let me tell you this, Las Vegas is built on machines that can count and never make mistakes. Can't we make an election machine, and can't we have an electoral process?
Great point.
And every
when you
American
go through
says,
all the
whatever
data,
happens,
okay, hold on, but
it can't be fixed.
I understand that we want elections to be as perfect as they possibly can be.
Yeah.
And one should not use the fact that the election was not stolen and was not cheated to not try to perfect it. I understand that distinction. But when you do as you're doing and you open the door to, well, we want every machine, you're opening the door to people who can say, well, then that's exactly what I'm saying. The machines miscounted, the machines did this, but they didn't. Every single analysis has shown that that did not
She's
happen.
acting like
right?
that
As you
didn't-
know.
She's saying every analysis has shown that that has not happened. That is absolutely not true. That's absolutely not true. Every analysis shows that that did not happen. It's crazy.
Do you worry that you're opening the door for
Well,
people to believe this? Look at the Republican primary voters and that they believe.
I'm not worried. I don't worry about how people might misinterpret my words. What I said, I mean, and I'm careful about how I use language. Oh, I'm not saying that election was that there was cheating. I've never said that. What I've said is that there are problems, particularly, Aaron, if you don't have paper ballots. The election machines can be fixed in various ways, and that's just a fact. What we ought to have is machines, and we ought to have paper ballots at the same time, and we ought to have a very low threshold to get a recount of the paper ballots, and that just makes sense. It's common sense, but if we implement that in every jurisdiction, you're not going to have problems where Americans at each other's throats.
I mean, so you're talking about a technical thing, like instead of having 0.5% be the trigger for a recount, you would put it even lower. I mean, that's the sort of reform you're talking about here.
Whatever. I'm not choosing a particular threshold, but a threshold that makes sense. That's a very low threshold where you get a recount if there's some question. So,
see, I think, and this is what I was talking with Catherine about the other day, is I feel like there should be an automatic recount no matter what. You have an automatic recount, and it's going to deter. It may not stop the voter fraud, but it will deter the people that want to make sure that there's fraud and that, boom, it's over, right? That's it. Like, they just want to act like, no, we didn't do it. No. But if you trust in what the vote is, if you trust that the elections, that the results are good, then you do a recount. An automatic recount, and you cannot do it with the digital voting. You cannot do it with the digital voting systems to say, well, we're going to just, we're going to regurgitate exactly what the original numbers said or what these said. No, you have to go back and you have to start over. Take those numbers, take those tallies, take those votes, go through it. The recount needs to involve the verification process. And that's what the recount really needs to do. It needs to be more about to verify that we're not counting people that are dead. We're not duplicate counting. That if there's people missed, if some people, hey, I don't know if my vote even counted. So the recount, there's a whole process. And if we do the recount process, and if we do that right, if we can make some headway on that, at least try, then we're not acting like this is the most perfect election ever, which is what the FBI has tried to tell us, the same FBI that went after Trump has tried to tell us that this is the perfect, the best election ever that has ever happened. And you can see that there are many reasons for some of us to believe that that may not be the case. Just a few more minutes with this one.
Well, and that's I don't think this is. I'm saying something that's controversial. I'm saying something that I think most Americans, virtually any American, would agree with. Let's have an election system that even 10% of the Americans who are crazy people, that even they won't question, because our election system is the best election system in the world. And nobody, Vermont, for example, has a very, very good election system. Nobody ever questions the Vermont election system. And we ought to be able to do the same thing in every state. We are supposed to be the template for democracy in every country in the world. Let's make sure we put a man on the moon. We've had all these accomplishments. Let's make sure we have a system that nobody is questioning, even crazy people.
People are always going to question it, though.
Two great things, Rick, that I think he brought up, and you may not, I don't know what your views are about putting the man on the moon, but it's a great comparison, I think. Kennedy, the first thing that you may have missed, I don't know how long you've been watching, but thank you, my brother, for watching here. I know you had probably a long day, and you got like 4 or 5 shows. Apparently a few that I didn't even know that you had. But Kennedy, one of the things Kennedy said is, well, we have these Las Vegas betting machines that are completely accurate. Why can't we make sure the voting process is accurate? Which is it's a pretty interesting point. I haven't really heard a lot of people talk about. So that's pretty interesting. And then he says, well, we put a man on the moon. We can't get this voting process right here. But to me, it's always going to come back to just paper ballots. And, if we can get the paper process right, and hopefully we can alleviate some of these problems.
Well,
they're always going to question it. And that
you want to narrow the margin of people who are questioning it to as much as possible by giving nobody any kind of legitimate claim about it. And that's all I'm saying. And what I'm saying is I'm not saying that President Trump won the election or that President Biden. I've never said anything or suggested anything like that. All I'm saying is let's focus on the issues that bring people together, than constantly focusing on the polarization, on the issues that drive Americans apart and have us all at each other's throats with this very, very toxic polarization and demonization of each other.
So, Mr. President,
that's a good idea.
This is what we got up to.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Nothing wrong with what he's saying there. Just maybe I may have one more clip. Do have the 9/11 clip here, but I did, Biden. Let me see. That may be the last one that I wanted to really play here. Maybe one more. Yeah, those were the main ones. I just want to see if I had anything else. Well, this is, RFK Jr.'s vice president.
Yesterday,
this was a big deal for me. I don't know. We were kind of curious to see, who's he going to choose? Who's he going to pick? And so I'm very curious to see. I was to see who he picked, and I had no idea who this person was. I'm just going to play a little bit of this, and let's see, because Kennedy's vice presidential pick, that was a big deal. I got some stuff on the border that I could definitely throw in here at some point, but you know how it is, man. This is just all craziness. It's all crazy stuff. Let's see. Rick is saying, man on the moon. I have my doubts, but hey, what do I know about space and what would it look like on the moon? I don't know. No, my only thing with the moon is that, it was, I don't know. I kind of have no reason to doubt that we did that. But I think that if we go up there, if we keep going up there and we go to all these other places, then we'll see what happens with the moon. But the footage, Rick is also saying, but the footage does look messed up for sure. Yeah. So I'm definitely open to it. I mean, I'm curious about it. The moon landing, whether we did, whether we didn't. I mean, look at what happened during that period of time too, right? And look at the way that the country was, and to have more countries, but to have all these people that want to get up to the moon, I think that is a good thing. I think we need to get there. We got the space station, we got all this crazy stuff that is happening with the UFOs. So I don't know. I mean, can we make the moon great again, Rick? Can we do that? Can we make something great again here in this crazy world? But it's not my hill to die on, as they say. But it is a fascinating, interesting topic because I can't prove that we went there. I can't prove that we didn't. So just like, I think you're kind of saying the same thing. I have my doubts too. And I think the more that they say that we are progressing, it's like, okay, well, why aren't we? And why don't we have more moon access? Why aren't we on the moon? Why don't we have bases on the moon? And then there's theories that we've had bases on the moon, that we've been to Mars, and that some of the artifacts, some of the things that we find on Mars actually may look like we have been there, and they've tried to cover that up too. So it goes back to the secret knowledge thing, where if these people are so powerful, these elitists and the shadow government, if they're so powerful, and if they have been to the moon, if they have been to these other planets, they probably don't want us to know about that either. And maybe that's part of their scripting. I don't know. I mean, there's so many different theories. The moon thing is a rabbit hole, big rabbit hole. It's a fascinating rabbit hole. And because I'm not invested in whether it is or isn't, whether we did or whether we didn't, it's fascinating to me. And it sounds like you're fascinated by it too. So if it was a big lie, it makes sense for that time in history. Absolutely. I definitely agree with you on that. And it does look like a big, big lie. We could do a really fun show on that because we're not, at least it sounds like you're not invested in we did go or no, we didn't go for sure. We could probably have a really fun show on that. Hope your show went well today. I didn't get a chance to check it out, but you can always catch Crip Rick. He does, I don't know how many shows you're doing now, but on the Revolution Radio, you can always catch him there doing the old school radio show, which we all love. I love radio, and Rick does too. He does a great radio show here. I know he does it Monday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday too. It sounds like so. I did not realize the Thursday one. The Thursday one threw me off, but I feel like I should have known that because I think I was on one of your Thursday shows. It's all a blur, brother. Yeah, that would be a very fun show to do that. To talk about that. It's a fascinating thing. I'm just going to play a few minutes of this.
Yesterday, independent presidential candidate RFK Jr. announced his choice.
But yeah, if you have
VP
anything
running
you want
mate,
to talk about or anything,
38-year-old Nicole Shanahan,
always down.
self-described progressive through and
See,
through.
I don't really
Well, then why isn't she running?
I don't really know who this person is. I don't know why RFK Jr. chose her as vice presidential nominee, and we still don't know who Trump's presidential nominee is. So that's, there is that. And yeah, I thought I was. I think I was on the Thanksgiving one because I think my daughter was sick and I was home, and I was like in the pre-stages of getting sick, and it was an interesting conversation probably, and I was probably a little more amped up because I was in those early stages of getting this flu that put me down for like a week after that. But shows tonight's show I was deep in. Oh, the Anunnaki. Oh, that's fun. That's a fun story. You got to tell me more about that. I'd love to hear more about that. And I will show where people can watch your show here in just a few minutes. So let me just play this, and I definitely want to hear more about that. I wonder if I can. I don't know if they've uploaded it to the archives yet, but I'd be curious. That'd be fun to play a little bit of that here. The Anunnaki. I'm fascinated about that. I got some pretty strong views about that, Rick. But love to hear how all that went down. Who was your guest, or did you have a guest on that? I'm curious now.
Running as a Democrat, same reason Kennedy isn't. They wouldn't let him into the primary process. She came from being the daughter of a poor Chinese immigrant mother to a millionaire tech entrepreneur. Here are the highlights from the announcement.
Well, I'm proud to introduce to all of you the next Vice President of the United States of America, Nicole Shanahan. Thank you all very much.
Every time my dad lost his job, our family just couldn't cover expenses. Food, gas, clothing, upkeep. I don't think we would have made it without food stamps and government help. As you probably know, I became very wealthy later on in life, but my roots in Oakland taught me many things I have never forgotten. That the purpose of wealth is to help those in need. So I come to you today as a former Democrat. I come to you as a woman not quite 40. I come to you as someone who has experienced sickness and health and poverty and wealth. And I come to you as a mother. If you are one of those disillusioned Republicans, I welcome you to join me, a disillusioned Democrat, in this movement to unify and heal America.
Gotta tell you, I thought that was well delivered, okay? Now, how did it play? Depends who you ask. All right, let's bring in Robert F. Kennedy Jr. right now. Thank you very much, Bobby, for joining us. It's good to have you.
Chris, great to be back with you.
I want to get through some big points so we can get to the people's questions for you. Look, the knock on Shanahan is easy, that she's not ready to be VP. You're young. We don't have, there are no questions like with Trump and Biden in terms of, well, what happens if Bobby gets sick? How do you respond to the idea that Shanahan checks a lot of boxes, but none that would make her able to run the country?
I would say a couple of things, Chris. One is that I'm guessing she probably has a higher IQ than almost anybody who I've seen in public life today. She's an expert on AI, which we need in the government right now. She's an expert on chronic disease, which is probably arguably our biggest issue in this country. We've gone from 6% of people having chronic disease when my uncle was president to 60% today. We've got an entire generation disabled by neurological injuries, autoimmune injuries, allergic injuries. And we have nobody talking about it. We're paying more now, Chris, for diabetes than for our defense budget. So when I was a kid, a typical pediatrician would see one case of juvenile diabetes in his lifetime. Today, 1 out of every 3 kids who walks into his office has juvenile diabetes.
Agreed.
And nobody is talking about it. And it is costing us $4.3 trillion a year, 3 times our defense budget. People said to me, well, you should have brought an insider in as VP. No, the insider is the one who gave us the chronic disease epidemic. They gave us the $34 trillion debt. President Bush, President Biden, and President Trump, during their short times in office, a single term each together, drove up a larger debt than every president since George Washington combined. And Congress let them do it. So it's not somebody inside who's going to solve the problem. They're the ones who gave us the problem. We need somebody who can think about it in a different way.
Accepted with a comma that, the pandemic boosted a lot of the spending needs. But that said, I look forward to having Shanahan on. It's an open invitation.
But they didn't need to do that. I mean, President Trump came in and said, I'm going to run the country like a business. And then he shut down 3.3 million businesses. What businessman would do that? He handed the keys every one of our businesses in this country to
Bobby,
Anthony Fauci.
But Bobby, and I'm sure this is gonna go viral because I'm about to defend Trump. When everybody comes to you, if it's President Kennedy, and says, we need to do this right now. This is not going to last a week or 2 weeks. This is a real problem. We're going to be overwhelmed. There's only one place that makes the swabs that we need. That's what pushed Trump into that situation. And then you had the businesses closed. You had all these people out of work. You had all these other problems. They started spending money. Biden continued to spend the money. Trump wanted to spend even more. You got to give him a little bit of a break on that. The pandemic was a problem.
Here's the thing, Chris. If I were president, that would have never happened. Never, ever. When my uncle was president, when John Kennedy was president, he was during the Cuban Missile Crisis, when the whole world was on the edge of a nuclear war. He had 11 of the 13 top advisors, what they call the XCOM committee, telling him he needed to invade Cuba. If he had gone ahead and done that, it would have been the end of the world. We now know. So, and he said, no, he researched the issue himself. He said, show me the aerial photos. He asked the CIA, what is Khrushchev going to do? Isn't it going to make, if we go in and kill his gun crews in Cuba, isn't he going to have to come into Germany? And isn't that going to end up in a nuclear war? He asked the questions. He went granular. He did the details, and he figured out a different solution. And we need that kind of president today, and we needed it during the pandemic. And unfortunately, we got two presidents who made a series of bad choices, drove up a $16 trillion in costs, destroyed an entire generation of kids and their learning, did things that nobody in their right mind would have done during the pandemic, that violated every pandemic protocol that we've developed over 50 years. You do not shut down a country for a respiratory illness because everybody knows it's going to go through anyway, and it was an illness that spread indoors, not outdoors, and we knew that from the beginning.
Right, but they were trying to keep people from being in
leadership.
elections. Because remember, the people who made the protocols were also the ones telling the presidents to go this route, and it was echoed in many places all over the world. But I get the discrepancy on it. I get the discrepancy.
They were violating their own protocols, and nobody asked. You had people telling us, trust the experts. And of course, that is not a feature of, that's not a thing. Trust the experts is not a feature of science. It's not a feature of democracy. It is a feature of religion and totalitarianism. And in democracies, we don't do that. We question everybody, and we need a president who knows that.
Let me ask you one more quick thing. And I'm going to make it a little protracted, but you'll get it. The Libertarian Party is interested in you. They have some questions about Shanahan. You'll have to meet with them. Do you have to make that work to get on enough state ballots to be viable to win? And if you cannot get on enough state ballots to be viable...
See, they keep going back to this. They keep going back to, like, as if RFK needs like the Libertarians or the Green Party. He doesn't need any of that. He just needs the people. And the people are going to vote. A lot of the people, they're going to vote for someone, right? So a lot of and it's just the eligible voters. They're going to vote for somebody. And I think he's looking at those numbers and he's seeing that there are a lot of people that are just, they're not going to vote for Trump. They're not going to vote for Biden. So who do they vote for? And those, to me, are not wasted votes. They're going to vote for somebody, and that's great. Or they're not going to vote for no. I would love to see the numbers of people that cast blank ballots. I think that would be a fascinating thing to see if there's anyone who actually shows up and casts a ballot for nobody. Just says, "This is me, and I'm not voting for anyone." And there you go. I mean, that would be fascinating to me to see what those numbers are, if there are anybody. And I don't know. I don't know if anyone has ever done that. I've never really looked at those numbers, but there must be some record of it, right? If we have such the perfect elections in the USA, if somebody did actually cast their ballot and didn't vote for anybody, I'd love to see that. Let me play a little bit more. Because I think Rick is right. Kennedy is just making some excellent points. And when he's in his element, the voice thing doesn't really bother people. And the more you listen to RFK Jr. too, I think the less that you realize, that he has a voice issue.
To win, will that be the demarcation line for you in terms of whether you decide to stay in the race? Ballots to be viable to win. Will that be the demarcation line for you in terms of whether you decide to stay in the race or not?
Chris, people have been asking me this from the beginning. I get this question.
Oh, did he just ask him? He just asked him if Kennedy is going to drop out of the race. Like, do they really think Kennedy is doing all of this? He's gone this far. He's made all this tracking. He's put in all of this work, and then he's just going to drop out. This is not a guy who is going to drop out. This is, to me, the way that I look at Kennedy, this is a guy who, if he loses in 2024, may see that he did some amazing things in 2024 that may be a prelude to what he does in 2028. I would look forward to Kennedy 2028, and that will make the Kennedy 2024 seem like just planting those seeds. And again, what Kennedy is doing is his historical, unprecedented. It's something very different than what we have seen from a politician, from a presidential candidate. He's going to make some fascinating numbers. And the way that he's doing it, the way that he's getting on the ballot in each state, I truly think is really going to be a blueprint that future third-party candidates are going to use. Hopefully for better or for worse, they're going to be able to use that. Let me play a little bit more here.
Follow the crowd on anything, but I do get this question from every reporter. What are you going to do if you don't get on the ballot? And I say the same thing every time. I say, we're going to be on the ballot in every state, all 50 states and the District of Columbia. I'm not saying that to spin something or to, feed you a line. I'm saying it because it's going to happen, and it's going to happen very, very quickly. So just,
this map, by the way, I don't even know what type of map is this. Where can Kennedy get on the ballot? Signatures gathered by campaigners. This map that they are showing is not accurate. This is not the map that you will see on Kennedy's website that actually shows the 8 states at this time, maybe 5 or 6, but there's only 2 that are on here that are part of the actual states that Kennedy has gained access. So it's more, 3 if you count Hawaii. You have to count Hawaii. But this, I don't know what they're talking about here. Maybe they're going to grill him on something here, but they show this map and then they post this thing. Where can Kennedy get on the ballot? And it's like, he can only get on the ballot here? No, he's on the ballot at this point in at least 5 different states. And like we show on the map on Kennedy's website, he's got a very good chance of getting on the ballot in many of these states, if not all. There are a few that I'm a little bit concerned about, only because the deadline for him to get enough people to sign up is coming to an end, and that includes in New York. But this map and what they're talking about just seem like 2 different worlds.
It's about 8 weeks.
I'm giving it to you. I'm asking it conditionally, just with where the map is right now.
That's not the map, though. It's not the real map. That's what he. Anyways.
Do you need them?
And he knows better. These 2 guys are friends, by the way.
Do you need to run on their line?
No. I'm very aligned with libertarians on a lot of issues. I love libertarians. I love the way they think about liberty. I think it's really critical and important. And I think on 80% of the issues, I'm aligned with 80% of libertarians. But so I do like the idea of running on their on their line, and we've talked about it and toyed with it and talked to them about it. But we don't need to do that. We're not going to need any political party. We're going to make it on our.
I have heard, and I haven't looked this up, but I have seen some reports. It's not on Kenny's website yet, but I have seen some reports that he says he's not going to run with the Green Party, which obviously he's gotten this far. He started his own political party, so that's a pretty good indication that he's not going to run with the Libertarian Party. And the more I looked at the Libertarian Party, the more questions that I do have about the Libertarian Party, especially after hearing Jesse Ventura kind of bash, maybe bash not the word, but he criticized the Libertarian Party. It seemed like they were a little bit too radical for Jesse Ventura. Picture a political party that is a little too radical for Jesse Ventura. For people that don't know Jesse Ventura, haven't read his books, haven't researched who this guy is, haven't been following him for years, they may think this Jesse Ventura is a radical, and the Libertarian Party to me is pretty radical. The Libertarian Party to me seems pretty close to the Democratic Party. I've seen some of the debates that they've had, especially the debate that the Libertarian Party had where they had RFK Jr. participate in. And you have RFK Jr. a part of this debate with these 2 or 3 other libertarians. And like, this is what the libertarian candidates are. This is what they're about. No wonder they want to move more towards RFK Jr. And again, we need more parties. We need more people. And these parties need to be able to stand up and really support their candidates and not be afraid to watch libertarians move to another party. Of course they are, because there's money involved. There's a lot of things that are involved with creating a political party. So we will look further into what is the party that RFK Jr. started, the We the People Party. He's done some videos on it. I'm following it. I'm going to document it. It's going to be part of the book that I'm currently writing, Kennedy and Trump. And I look forward to that. And hopefully one day, Rick, hopefully you'll have me on your show to talk about that. Maybe obviously in 2025, won't be any time soon, but maybe a show that may put your audience to sleep at some point. But who knows? Depending on what happens in 2024, we just don't know. And what happens in the USA, they say the world follows. We shall see. So rant over and let's.
All right. I mean, look, the distinction is you keep getting asked the question because the Democrats want you out. Now you have the DNC that actively have a team set up to figure out how to deal with you and other third-party candidates. That's not where I'm coming from. I'm just trying to figure out the pragmatism for you. All right. The people matter more. They have calls for you. Who do we have for Bobby?
Okay, we have a lot of people for Mr. Kennedy. We're going to start with Joe from Brookings, Oregon.
Joe, what's your question? Keep it tight.
Yes, would Mr. Kennedy be willing to do a one-on-one debate with Donald Trump? Since we know Joe Biden's too senile to do it himself.
I would love nothing more than that. I would be great to have a 3-person debate. But I will debate either President Biden or President Trump in any kind of forum that they want.
Good luck with that. I don't even think they're going to debate each other, to be honest. All right, next question.
Okay, next we're going to go to Mark from Virginia.
Mark, what's your question?
Good afternoon, Mr. Kennedy. It's an honor to speak with you. My question is, we all know that the DNC has engaged in a massive misinformation campaign to malign and marginalize you. It's been picked up by a lot of the mass media. It's only going to get worse. What specifically is your plan to combat that other than continuing to hold rallies?
Well, now I'm able to go on some of the media outlets. I mean, Chris has been one of the first people to actually let me on and have a conversation, to do a live conversation. none of the mainstream media will let that happen. None of the other MSNBC will not let me have this kind of discussion on air. CNN won't, NBC, ABC, none of them will. Some of them are starting to, and Michael Schmerkanish let me on a live show recently. Chris lets me on this network, News Nation. There's a number of hosts on these shows that are letting me on, and their range, if people understand, CNN has an agenda, MSNBC has an agenda, Fox News has an agenda, but News Nation plays it pretty much straight up and down the line, and I think the appetite for that among the American people is greater and greater, and I'm getting bigger audiences. So, I reach a lot of people through podcasts. That's why I'm doing better in this country than either President Biden or President Trump. Under Americans under 45, I beat them. The people where I'm weakest are the baby boomers. And baby boomers who I should be doing the best with because they remember.
I don't know. I mean, I think I just believe his numbers are higher with the baby boomers. It's just they're not being polled. They're not being, they're just more old school. They're staying away from the digital stuff. I don't know. And he keeps saying that. I don't know. I just don't believe that's true. I think he's popular with all ages.
Camelot, they were around for the Kennedy era, and they loved me when I was the environmental champion. But they don't like me now because those information ecosystems are very defamatory toward me, as you pointed out. So really, I think our big challenge is I'm winning among independents, which is now the biggest political party. I'm winning among young people. I'm tied, three-way tie among Hispanic voters. I'm doing very well among Black voters. My big challenge is reaching those baby boomers. I think what we're going to see is that what we find is when baby boomers hear me actually speak, when they listen to a podcast, we have a very, very high conversion rate very quickly. Oh, I think if I can get on there, I think my polling numbers keep up. It's going to be very hard for them to keep me off, and we'll see what happens.
Let's get
one. Yeah, I think he's done a really good job at that. Kennedy has just kind of showed people that, because a lot of people say, "Oh, I'm going to run for the president." Kennedy has actually done it and actually shown how difficult it is, and why many people are turned off by the two-party system because of how difficult they make it for anyone who wants to run. They go after them. But even that, just how to get them on to the ballot is so difficult. It is so difficult to get them on. So it's just, I'm always fascinated by it. Let me see if I can. I don't know if this will show or not. And I don't know if the audio will play. If I play this, it probably won't. I don't know if the audio will play or not. So let's see. I will test it out and let's. Well, that didn't work. Too bad. Actually, I may be able to play it if I just act like I'm not there. Let me try that. So, with this channel, unfortunately, it may be coming to an end. And I have other backup channels, everything else. And then I also have, for people who want to follow this experience, it's a moment in history. That's all it is. Just think of it like that. All right. This is a very powerful moment in history that we are going to see with Trump, with Kennedy. It's I don't know. I don't know how else to describe it, but I am hopeful that maybe this audio will play here. Let me see. Stop sharing that. And let's start sharing this. All right. This may work.
RFK Jr. is, as you know, the most radical left candidate in the race. He's more so than the Green Party. He's more so than even crooked Joe Biden. But he's got some nice things about him. I happen to like him. Unfortunately, he is about the Green New Scam because he believes in that. And, a lot of people don't. They want to see our country become rich and wealthy and strong and powerful and lots of other things, and not waste money doing something that nobody wants and everybody knows doesn't work. I guess that would mean that RFK Jr. is going to be taking away votes from crooked Joe Biden, and he should, because he's actually better than Biden. He's much better than Biden. If I were a Democrat, I'd vote for RFK Jr. every single time over Biden, because he's frankly more in line with Democrats. RFK Jr.'s running mate, Nicole Shanahan, is also a very liberal person, but that's okay. She's got plenty of money from her ex-husband. Kennedy is a radical left Democrat and always will be.
Some swipes
but he's
there.
a better man than Joe Biden, that I can tell you. It's great for MAGA. I hope he continues to run, but the communists will make it very hard on him to get on the ballot, as they did for him as a Democrat. He wanted to get on the ballot. They made it very, very difficult for him. They really went after him viciously, just like they go after me. Welcome to the crowd, RFK Jr. But the fact is that the Democrats are vicious, communist, fascists. They're horrible people. They really hurt him badly, what they did to him as a Democrat. That's why he's running as an independent. But expect him to be indicted any day now, probably for environmental fraud. He is crooked Joe Biden's political opponent, not mine. Biden can't speak. Biden can't debate. Biden can't put two sentences together. So I guess he's probably going to indict RFK Jr. But I'm glad that he's running. They will fight it out together. We have the right and we have the center, and we have even center a little bit left, if you can believe it or not, because that group is radical left. They want windmills. They want all sorts of things that are going to destroy our country.
In Venezuela, crime is... Also, a Fox News poll came out a couple of days ago, and extraordinarily, the most popular major candidate right now, although he's for a third party, the We the People Party, is RFK Jr. Has an approval rating, rather a favorability rating of 47, followed by 2 points by the former president, and then Joe Biden is 6 points behind him.
Yes, and I would say, because I've looked at a lot of this swing state polling with RFK in particular, it's kind of a mixed bag. Sometimes he hurts Trump, sometimes he hurts Biden, but I would say for the most part he hurts Biden. But there's one line in the Wall Street Journal poll I'd be looking at, which is half of Republicans view RFK favorably, only a quarter of Democrats. This is why it is so smart for former President Trump to define him for what he is. RFK is a Democrat. You heard former President Trump say, look, he picked a Democrat. This guy, for all intents and purposes, is a Democrat. And next week, when Trump says he'll announce his abortion stance, he would be wise to contrast him. I'm the pro-life candidate. He is not. If you're a Republican, you need to be with me.
So that's suggesting that Donald Trump thinks that RFK would take voters from him.
Yes, he said MAGA welcomes him. So he was very clear on that. Yes.
All right. Very good.
A moment ago, you said you essentially see.
I don't know what you're talking about, 9/11. No, as you heard, Chris, what I said was that I can make this argument, and I didn't say definitively whether I believed one or the other was more dangerous than democracy. I did say that I don't believe either of them are going to destroy democracy. Both sides are telling us the other guy is the end of the republic, but they're both lame duck presidents. They're going to be in there 4 years. Like their political opponents are going to be announced 2 years later. There'll be a new Congress in 2 years later, and we have strong institutions in our country. We have judiciary, we have the press to some extent, we've got Congress, and you have the military. You've got a lot of institutions that are bulwarks against a tyrant coming in and taking over democracy. So I don't think that's going to happen.
I went a little bit over than what I wanted to do. I wanted to go about 2 hours here and just talk about the most latest things. And we will be back, definitely leading up to what happens in November. That is going to be the main thing. This is the longest Republican primary and Democrat primary ever. I mean, they don't end till July, I think. I mean, so this is going to go on and on and on. And then after that, then we go into the presidential season, where the presidential candidate season. And I think they're hoping that there's going to be voter fatigue. And I don't believe that. I think, especially with all these crazy things that are happening across the world, Israel and Iran, Russia, Ukraine, and everything in between, and what is happening on our own streets with these illegal aliens. And Rick, I don't know if you're still here or not. I'm going to shut this down here in a minute too. But if you are still here, one of the best Phil Collins songs ever is "It's No Fun Being an Illegal Alien," and there's a story in there somewhere, my friend. God bless you all. Rick, thank you very much. And I do hope to connect with you very soon here. And until then, remember, God loves you, and be good. Be good.